Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about 2.8, which is the derivative as a function. Let me just review what we had last time. We said the slope of the tangent line is equal to the derivative of the function, and it is equal to the limit of f at x plus h minus f of x over h as h is approaching 0. And that's the same thing as the velocity, and the velocity input is usually the time, right? So that's the slope. Since we will be talking about the slope, let's review the 4 kinds of a slope that we have. One kind is when your graph or line is going upward. The slope is positive then. The second kind is going to be when your line or graph is going downward. So that's the slope which is negative, right? Now the third kind is when the slope is 0. That's when your line is parallel to the x-axis, and the equation of such line is y equal a number, and the slope is 0, right? The fourth kind is the line which is parallel to the y-axis. So this is the y-axis. The equation of such line is x equal a number, and the slope is undefined. Okay. Now that we know the 4 kinds of a slope, let's see if we see any kind of a slope in graph f. What can we say about graph of f prime? Okay, so if we see the slope is 0 at some points in graph f, that means we have a min or max, right? Then in graph f prime, it crosses the x-axis at those points. What about in an interval we see that m is positive? Then the graph of f prime, it is above x-axis. What about if I see the slope is negative? Then it is below x-axis. And at last, if m is undefined at a point in graph f, that means we have a vertical asymptote or vertical tangent at that point, right? Okay, so if we have a corner, a cusp, a discontinuity, or a vertical tangent at a point it is not differentiable. That means doesn't have the derivative at that point. Okay, let's do an example. So in this exercise, we want to graph f prime when we have the graph of f. Let's try that. Okay, So first of all, we'll see that at these 2 points that are min and max, the slope is 0, right? When the slope is 0, it's supposed to cross the x-axis, right? That's the x-axis. So we know it's going to cross the x-axis. Okay. Now what about this part? This part, as you can see, is going downward, right? So the slope is going to be negative. So f prime, so this is my f prime, is going to be below x-axis. In graphing, we are not pinpointing it down. We just want to have a feeling for f prime, right? Okay. Now let's see what about this part. It's going upward, so the slope is positive, so f prime is supposed to be above x-axis, right? Now what about this part? Okay, it's going downward, right? So it's going to be below x-axis. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, first of all, I notice the cusp in here, the corner, right? So it's not differentiable at these 2 points. Okay, it's not differentiable in these 2 points. Okay, now before that, this line is going upward, so it's positive. It has to be above x-axis, but it is constant, right? It's not changing, so it would be something like in here. So since that doesn't include the graph, it's a hollow point. Okay, now let's try this part. It's going downward and it's constant, right? So it has to be below x-axis. So it would be something like in here. Okay. And what about this part? Okay, it's going upward, so it has this kind of the same the slope as this blue part. Okay, so it has to be something like that. Okay, let's do one more. So let me just graph it right here. Okay, so I see this max, this min, and this max. So this is my 0, this point, and this point, right? Okay. Now what's happening before that is going upward, so it's positive, so it has to be above x-axis, right? Okay. What about this part? Up to here, right? So it's going downward, so it has to be below x-axis, right? Okay. What about this part right here? It's going upward, so it has to be above x, above, right? And what about this part? So that's going to be below x-axis. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.